Welcome back. Thank you for hanging out with us once again. This is the IT in the D Show. I'm your host, Bob Waltonspiel, hanging out with co-host, producer extraordinaire Randy Walker. Guest this week, JD, Jason David. He has two first names, but we like him anyway. He is the founder of the Workforce Performance Network. He is actually one of the early adopters of CrossFit in Detroit, and he's an old IT recruiter and a dear old friend of mine from way back. So we're going to get into some old stories. We're going to be talking about the startup, how basically he founded another startup and going through the funding process and taking an idea to market. So it should be a great story. You can find us online at itinthed.com. Do us a favor, give us a like on the socials, subscribe to us everywhere fine podcasts are sold. We had our first event at Nancy Whiskey last Thursday, and we got rained out, but we stayed inside and actually had a decent group for the wicked storm that came through Detroit. But we're going to be back at Nancy Whiskey's a couple more times the next 2 months. Find us at meetup.com. That's MEET, not MEAT, Randy.
The next date on that is August 17th.
August 17th. That's my
August 17th.
That would have been my parents' anniversary. We'll do a toast to them. But hey, JD, Jason, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you.
Good. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. You've given me a couple favors over the past few years, so I owe you, I think, 3. So no, it's great to see you, great to talk, and looking forward to chatting.
So as the story goes, if anyone knows my origin story was I sold clothes in high school and I sold beer through at college, and I realized selling beer wasn't my end game. So I went I got into IT, being the nerd that I was, and I had 2 opportunities: one to work in an empty data center to fill it up, and another one to get into the IT recruiting scene to work with you. And for whatever reason, I chose the data center side, and kind of the rest is history. But I always I remember my roots, my first gigs, the jobs I passed up. But no, we go back, almost 30 years, JD. Am I correct? I think close to
it. Yeah. Plus, you and Mike and Tulio that we knew through Mike's job as a magician. So kind of outside of our professional world, but it's been quite a while.
And actually, your wife was my first girlfriend's bestie when I was 15. So that's how far back I go on that side.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, trust me. I know it's crazy when you think about how
I used to be a DJ at the Post where I met my wife. So.
See, that's why you always be nice to people. You never know how they come back. But one of the things I got to give you props for is you were in sales like I was, and what did we do? We went and got a big breakfast with a client. Then we get a big lunch with a client, and then we'd have beers with clients, and we'd go to networking events with beers, and we got big. And you did something about it, and I didn't. You were one of the first. I don't want to call you a pioneer, but you were like the first guy in town that like did the whole CrossFit thing. And I know it's a cliche now, and it's like, how do you know a CrossFitter walked in the room? Because he told you.
I was that guy, 100%. For sure.
Well, how did you? I guess when did the switch click? Because a lot of us are, a lot of us coders, a lot of us pizza eaters, a lot of us sales guys that are, looking at our older ages now. Switch hasn't clicked. How did it click for you?
I think it was a combination of a couple things. And, looking back, you can take kind of a high level view and say, what was it that made me stick with that instead of the other, things that didn't work. And I think it was, I liked it. It made sense to me. I liked the measurable piece of it. I think I was pretty good at it. We had a real small group when we started at Motor City. And then I eventually found myself liking to teach it. So it kind of became something that I didn't do because it was good for my health. I did it because it was fun. And fast forward 15 years, I opened my first gym in 2008, and now it's 2023, and we're still going strong. So I think I was dedicated right in the beginning, but after that, it was just fun for me, and the people kept me there, and I'm still friends with people that I met in 2008 to this day. So it's just one of those things that I got lucky, I think.
I think you got me for a week. I think it lasted a week before I stopped going. And
I still have your book.
Do you really?
Your logbook.
Oh my God. There's one page has got something on it. See, here's the thing. I didn't hate it, but God bless it, is it intimidating? when you see the guys doing the dolphin pull-ups and you're sitting there going, I could do 2 push-ups, you know, and it's not even about like, hey, I'm just trying to get in. And they weren't even, no one was mean to me or anything. It's just, you know, and I kind of liked it. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, that was definitely not my thing.
It's not, I mean, it's definitely not for everybody. And I don't begrudge anybody that doesn't like it. I mean, some people just don't like the rah stuff. They don't like the intensity. You just got to kind of find, you know, what works best for you. Just keep looking, and eventually you'll come across something, whether it's just walking your dog every day or, you know, CrossFit or rock climbing, whatever it is, just keep looking.
And that's why I got an exercise bike behind my desk that I don't use. You know, it's the tale of two.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Hang your stuff on it.
Exactly. And then I'm like, I'm going to start rowing. So I bought a row machine that sits next to the bike that I don't use. So yeah. And it goes on and on. So you recently got into the startup game. That's kind of what I wanted to focus on. And what, I guess most of the time they say, you know, solve a problem. Like if you talk to any of the big business people, are like, you know, when should I start? Like, what problem are you solving? So you started, it's called Workforce Performance Network. Say that 3 times. But basically from what I gathered, it's, you know, I guess tell me what it is. And then I want to start to let's figure out why, you know, what was that, what was that, you know, light that went off to start this up?
So it's a long, I'm going to try to condense 3 years in just a couple sentences, but, I started doing jujitsu in about 2017. And I started noticing like similar things between people that do CrossFit, jiu-jitsu, and that sort of kind of got something in my head. And I never could figure out like the owners of these CrossFit gyms, jiu-jitsu places, they're some of the most amazing people. And all they're doing is their advertising is on Instagram and Facebook and Google reviews. And that's been in my head for years, and I could never kind of, I guess, wrap my head around what that even meant in my head. And then you have the pandemic that popped in 2020, and that was also coincided with 3 huge business problems that I ran into.
So did they time out real quick? Did they shut you? I don't know what happened, obviously, because I wasn't going in. Plus, I was dealing with a knee injury, so I was bedridden anyway, or couch ridden. What did they do to you during COVID? Just out of curiosity.
Yeah, they shut us down, I think, March 16th and said, you got to close your doors. We followed all the rules set down by the state, whether it was, you know, wear a mask or, you know, work out outside, no classes, that sort of thing. So they said close down, and we closed down.
Wow.
So it was like I had 3 really rough things happen in a short period of time. Business things that, you know, I don't want to get into all the details on that, but it was like the pandemic was just like a last straw. And it was so catastrophic that I thought to myself, I need to figure out something. And all I did was start reading. And the stuff I started reading was based on the underlying thing that was, why do these gyms, these amazing facilities, some of them world class, I'm talking like, you know, there's some martial arts and, you know, training facilities that have world class owners. And then I also was reading stuff based on, what the hell am I going to do? Like, these are some huge problems that are coming with the pandemic, that sort of thing. So for about 2.5 years, I was reading whatever the smart people told me to read, and I didn't know why. So if anybody's listening to this that's thinking about creating a startup, definitely don't take this path. It's a bad idea because I'm not technical, but I would just read and not know why, but keep going. Like, why is it telling me to read Mark Andreessen's book, Hard Thing About Hard Things? Why is it telling me to read 0 to 1? Why is it telling me to read Poor Charlie's Almanac? Like all this stuff. But I just kept going. And 2.5 years later, I just read this book and I'm like, what? Why do I keep reading venture capital books? Like, it was not my world. It wasn't anything that resonated with anything I ever did with a brick and mortar business. And when I read what a venture capital looks for when they're making an investment, and it said minimum viable product. I was like, holy shit, that's my idea. I had no idea that, all these books I was reading and all that stuff was just basically stories of startups. So it took me about 2.5 years to realize that my idea was a startup. But because I read all those books, I had a playbook for start to finish of doing a startup. So my path to that took a very long time, but once I got there, I was off to the races.
Nice. So I mean, you got to your MVP, kind of getting the world out there. Talk to me now through, I guess, the pitch deck to getting it funded, because to me that's the most intriguing part, because we've had Monica Weed on, who kind of owns the whole Detroit venture market. But like, it's a swing and a miss game. That's like trying to hit a 99 mile an hour curveball, right?
Well, the first thing I knew was that fundraising for a startup is soul sucking and horrifyingly ego deflating. So I already knew that. And since I knew that, I'm like, okay, I guess if this doesn't work well, that's kind of part of the process. So I thought to myself, I'm going to start with my rich friends. And at the time, I didn't know it was a startup. And I approached them, and they both, a few of them, they thought it was a good idea, but something didn't make sense to me. It's like, why am I putting all my dreams of this now thing that I have into the hands of a couple people? That didn't make sense. And then I realized what I needed to do, and that was to do that exact thing that you're saying and start the fundraising in that startup model. So I created an AngelList corporation. I didn't know what AngelList was for 2 years. I heard it over and over again on the stuff I was listening to, but once I created the company in the Delaware C form, I had AngelList. So then I had a path, and I had a visual representation of everything. The fundraising that I started with my clients, the goal was $1 million, right? And I failed miserably.
To raise or for Series 1? Okay.
So my pre-seed or friends and family round, they call it, was raised for $1 million with a 20% discount on a $5 million cap. It was just kind of a basic cookie cutter initial raise.
You're pretty much the guys that get laughed at Shark Tank, right? Like that's.
Oh my God, yeah, 100%. And I could see it in people's eyes. Yeah, I could see it in their eyes. They're like, "This guy is nuts," But I knew that's kind of how it went. But I told them, I said, it doesn't matter. You guys have to understand, I am going to get to the minimum viable product. I'm going to get to the Series A funding. I don't care how long it takes or how I get there. So lo and behold, and this is one of those startup serendipity stories, in January of 2023, a guy walks in to try CrossFit, and I pitched 60 members on my startup idea, and I had to do it in a way that didn't alienate them. I didn't want them to feel like I was begging them for money. They're all my clients. They spend $150 to $200 a month to work out here. But this guy comes in, and he's like, I always make small talk, and he said, I go, "What do you do?" And he's like, I'm in IT. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And he said, I said, "Well, what do you do?" I used to be an IT recruiter. And he goes, "I'm in startups." And I'm like, "Okay." And then I go, "What do you do?" Because now my interest is piqued, because I've just spent the last 3 years learning everything I could about doing this. And he goes, "Well, I design and develop minimum viable products for startups so that they can get their funding." I'm like, oh my God, I got to shut my mouth here and kind of, temper my excitement. So fast forward a couple months, I get to know the guy. He joins the gym. He gets my message. He'd actually previously developed a minimum viable product that got a Series A funding of, I think, $35 million. And, because I knew things would not go as planned ever when you do something like this, looking back, had my high net worth friends, or I was able to raise that $1 million, I don't think it would have led me to finding this co-founder that was like a lottery ticket, and he's been amazing. I mean, he's got the basic minimum viable product put together, and I originally told them, like, hey, this is a long process. Your investment is not going to really see any fruit. We're not even going to have the minimum viable product for 2 years. So we're a year and a half ahead of schedule. So the playbook that I had, knowing everything wouldn't go as planned, has gone better than I could have imagined because of just startup luck. And I can't explain it other than it's how these things happen, these stories. So, I mean, the initial fundraise was crazy. Yeah.
If you look at just sales in general, if you get 60 no's and you're still plugging around, like, you got something, or at least you, in your heart, you got something, because that's a lot of no's to deal with.
Oh, it was a lot of no's, and I got the vibe of like, oh, bless your heart, JD. Go ahead. I mean, even my wife, she's like, and my daughter, they think I'm the guy from Serendipity, Greg Kinnear, like the 12-step program thing. But it was just one of those parts of the process that I knew was coming, even though I had no experience in startup, because I read all the stuff first. So it's kind of unbelievable the way things worked out. Finding Tom to be able to kind of help me along with this. And I also knew that there's no angel investor that is going to look at me, who is a non-technical sole founder, until I have certain metrics. And until I found Tom, I was trying to teach myself how to use Figma to develop my minimum viable product, how to use Y Combinator to use their co-founder matching. So I was planning for the inevitable failure at raising $1 million, and then got lucky with Tom. So it's just crazy how things happen. And then, now we have the whole nother process of execution, which when you have the end in mind, as I do, the execution is kind of a foregone conclusion, and product market fit for me is not even a question. So it's been a long road to get to a startup to where we are, but we're pretty excited moving forward.
No, absolutely. So let's go all the way back and like go through. I was at like asking about the why. Like, what did owning a CrossFit gym? You've seen some things. What was the market missing that you needed to fix?
It is the owners of these facilities should not, in my opinion, be begging people to join their gym using Instagram and Facebook. I believe that the brand of the Workforce Performance Network should be centered around these people. It shouldn't matter what umbrella or flag that they fly. It shouldn't matter, what discipline they use, whether it's CrossFit, kettlebells, Olympic weightlifting, gymnastics, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is. The brand is the owner of these facilities. They should have a commercial in the Super Bowl. They should be on the side of a Formula One car. They should be the standard for when people decide that they need to do something. And it's community based, so it's it's a mental health piece as well. These facilities are the ones that provide long-term benefit, and this brand will be centered around them. And the initial phase of this will be directly working with using the lean startup model, because for some reason I read that book also. We'll be getting the direct feedback as we run our first ad campaign locally. So I want to give.
I was going to say, if you look at these things as like the corners of neighborhoods, you look at I always talk about the diner. I always talk about the dive bar. I just went to my first art studio. My daughter drugged me to on last Friday. The small garage gyms, like that's Main Street, right? And too many times, like, I know, like, for my work, like, everyone gets a Planet Fitness, or we want a Planet Fitness. So, do you ever go to one of those places? It's the Walmart of, no offense to either one of those two, but I'm just saying, it's just I know the difference. You know what I mean? It's a, you don't develop any friendships at Planet Fitness. CrossFit, I know people that for life. So are you trying to like take, let's use diners, whatever. You're in the fitness space, or are you trying to be almost like, I don't want to say Grubhub for the diner, where, or for the gym, where you're like, hey, this diner that didn't have any budget before because it's just on Instagram. Hey, now we're putting them on a national platform where people that are hungry can find food. I never knew about this place, and voila. I mean, I guess talk to me through what that vision is.
So if this example would be, and I, just like you said, I don't want to belittle anything that anybody does to get healthy. If you find passion in Planet Fitness and you become healthier and happier, because whatever you do is fine with me. I have nothing against that. But with our vision, with phase 1 is certifying these gyms, right? And then putting together the ad campaign. Phase 2 is creating the wellness program with small businesses that are in the same community as these gyms. So if I'm an owner of one of these facilities, no local small businesses are going to send me their employees, recommend them coming to my place unless I have my liability insurance, my certificate of occupancy, all those things, and a certain amount of experience that they can feel comfortable sending their employees. So it's basically going to be a vetting process to say, are you doing the things that you're supposed to be doing? Meaning you're a legal business, you have the proper credentials and insurance. Do you have the required amount of experience, which in my brain, I have 1,000 hours in my head. I don't know if that's, I'm not going to have that be set in stone. And are you providing the type of thing that is open to the larger community for these small businesses? And my criteria would be, would I recommend my wife, daughter, aunt, grandma, mother go to these places? Our certification will, in my vision, provide that peace of mind so that people can feel comfortable walking in these facilities, even though there's not a brand associated with it. That's why it's not going to be Orange Theory or F45 or anything like that, because the owner itself is the brand.
And they already have their own engine.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it shouldn't be tied to, and I love CrossFit and I'm still a CrossFit affiliate, but if somebody is all of a sudden not a CrossFit affiliate, they should not lose the value in their advertising. So our program, our network will go with the owner of the facility, not the name on their door.
What do you have to do to be a CrossFit affiliate?
It's you have to get certified. You have to pay $3,000 a year to use the name, and you have to list.
Who owns it?
Yeah, CrossFit headquarters owns it.
Oh,
just
some.
Yeah, but just for CrossFit's sake, their education system is second to none. I mean, they require in-person certification. They have a continued process where you can learn more, different levels. So, but they don't come to your place and say, "Hey, they got a clean bathroom,"
Right.
So,
well, who would have thought that they would have had world championships? It kind of went crazy. Like we all thought of just flipping tires and doing dolphin pull-ups, and then all of a sudden now it's on ESPN and there's world records being set. I kind of watching from afar, It's been kind of a cool journey. I'm sure you were smiling from ear to ear.
I like how you call them dolphin pull-ups. That's pretty.
Isn't that what they're called?
Kipping pull-ups. Kipping pull-ups.
It's dolphin pull-ups. Whatever.
Yeah. That's. I never heard the term. That's good.
Oh, watching the people do it. That's what it looks like.
Right.
I wish I did a good dolphin impersonation. It'd be a good time for it right now. So
give it a try.
What do you expect? Like I guess UX is user experience is the big thing, right? Can it be good? What are you envisioning to be the UX? Here's our recommended gyms. What is that experience going to look like?
Ideally, you won't join a gym or you won't even set foot into a facility unless you see that they're in the network. That would be my vision at the end of the day. And I believe that with the growth of the network and the types of people that operate these, they have pride in what they do. I want them to feel like when they see our commercial, when they see the Workforce Performance Network logo on the golf tournament that they have Pride, and we're going to work with them to make sure that happens, particularly from now as we start testing, in the Metro Detroit market with our first 5 customers. So this is all centered around the people. So the owners, like Joe DeGain owns CrossFit 810. He's a level 4 trainer. He shouldn't be on Instagram posting videos. Please come to my, he's second to none in terms of what he's done. Professor Fresh that owns my jiu-jitsu studio, the guy is beyond reproach, right? He is not a social media guy. He should have a line out the door for people to come into his facility. And we want the value to be there, and we're going to use the information that we get from our initial customers to give them what they want so that they feel like they're getting value for it.
So is this B2B or B2C? Sorry for asking dumb questions. I'm just trying to think this whole thing.
No, the initial is, I guess you would call it B2B, because our customer will be the small business gym owners. The next phase of it is the partnership with small businesses in the gyms. And the cool part there is a lot of the members of these gyms average $150,000 a year. A lot of them own businesses that see the value in their product. So our initial growth of the second phase is another lean startup within the startup. So the next phase is a kind of, I would almost call it software as a service, but really it's a wellness program for these small businesses to send their employees to the gym. And then at the end is the consumer app that will be, machine learning to get feedback, to keep the quality of the facilities, game theory, to keep people engaged, all the frilly stuff that isn't as important, but kind of looks good to investors as a value proposition.
Just don't do the stuff. I think didn't we talk about it, Randy, last week? The guy from V-Shred that makes it like a 37-minute video and tells you at the end, like, I'm going to tell you 3 things right now, and then you got to wait 37 minutes to hear the final 3 things. But that guy makes like $10 million a minute. It's like, yeah. I'm doing the wrong thing here. Who am I talking? Yeah. Talking smack to a guy that billion.
I mean, if he likes helping people and that's his thing, that's good. But I mean, our overarching, everything that we're doing is for the owners of these facilities. And the cool part is about why this is such why I think it's an awesome thing is all the goals line up with investors, our initial customers, our small business partners. The startup model is just the amazing setup that is the only way we can get our idea out the right way. It just happens to be $1 billion idea. I didn't make it up. It's just what it is. I just need to execute to get to the other end of the, of the timeline. That's it.
So how do you, I always look for stuff like, now I'm looking at scale because you're talking about going nationally. You can scale from right here, right? You don't need feet on the street, or do you?
No. So I know personally our initial 5 customers that I'm going to reach out to, and if they aren't interested in that, initial phase, we got more that we can look into. But I'm moving forward as if there is no such thing as an angel investor or venture capital. I'm hoping that somebody goes, what is this here? I heard about this startup, and look at, and then they work backwards from what does a venture capitalist look for when they invest in a startup, right? Since I did it exactly the way they want it from start to finish, once somebody looks at it and they dig a little further, they'll have peace of mind knowing that their, investment is going to be safe, relatively safe. I mean, these are all, you never know kind of thing. But, somebody like Bill Gurley, I mean, I'm going to send a recording to him. He has no business talking to me. I'm just going to send it to him because why not? He likes networks. He's a venture capitalist. We have a pretty good story. We're going to do all the other things that are required along the way as if we're not going to get any funding. So it'll just be like, do you want to make a bunch of money?
Tell Bill I have an amazing idea for a bathroom review app that I've been talking about since this podcast started called Crapper with 2 P's. I'm telling you.
I have a buddy that wants to do the same thing. He wants to, I don't think he was going to call it that, but he wanted to rate the toilets for people so they can find the clean ones.
It's a thing. It's a need. See, I got dibs.
Yeah.
Just tell your buddy I got dibs.
All right.
But
so
hey,
yeah,
we can find you at the. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just all the stuff. I've turned into a kind of a, like, every no that I've gotten, I've turned it into a game. Not a game as in, that was funny, but I'm learning from if somebody says no, or if a investor doesn't think it's a good idea, or whatever it is, and I'm using that to kind of plant little nuggets along the way to kind of help teach me, my co-founder Tom, what we need to do next. So, like you mentioned, Monica, she responded to me. I'm like, oh my God, Monica Wheat. That was
because she's fantastic. That's why.
Yeah. So it's been fun. I email. Do you know who Jason Kalakanakis is?
No, the name. I don't know if I know him personally.
He's like an angel investor, and I pitched a buddy of mine, and he's like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You should listen to his podcast. So I read his book, listened to his podcast. What I didn't tell my friend is every couple months I send Jason Kalakanakis an unsolicited email update of our progress, just for fun, right? If it's $1 billion, he's gonna be like, oh man, that guy. Mm-hmm. Or if it fails, just another startup that failed. So it's all part of the process, if you ask me.
Absolutely. So we can find you at the world's longest URL. That's workforceperformancenetwork.com. We'll work on that.
That's right.
No, it's all good.
Well,
and I'm going to put the link to get a hold of JD in show notes. And I can't wish you any more luck than I could possibly wish you. Continued success, and if you need anything, you know where to call me. So.
Okay. Yeah. And if things go well, I'm going to invest in your Crapper Apper.
Yeah, there. See, all right. Now I really wish for your success.
Yeah, we got to do it.
Yeah,
let's make it big.
All right, that was Jason JD from the Workforce Performance Network. I'll get used to it. It's going to take.
Maybe we'll do a shorter one just to make it easier for people to find to the network and have a link to the bigger one.
Do a Bitly. There you go. Is it Bitly still around? God, I'm old. But hey, we're going to wrap things up for this episode of the IT and the D Show. On behalf of Bob and Randy, do us all a favor. Drink up your drinks. Get your phone numbers. You don't have to go home. You just got to get the hell out of here. See you next week. Drive careful. Beat it.